Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, Anita Finley.
Okay, so Dean. Oh, everybody knows who Dean is. I mean, I could just say Dean and everyone would know. When you really look at Faith Farm Ministries, Dean Webb is kind of the shining star. Every organization has to have a shining star. And, of course, in my life, I've become so impressed with this gentleman and what he does for Faith Farm and really for other people, too. But Dean Webb is here, and we're going to talk about some fun things. One thing is I know that we had a big sale, or you had, I always say we. You had a big sale last Saturday and Sunday. And what actually were you selling at Faith Farm Ministries?
Everything in our thrift store was on sale. We, clothes, jewelry, furniture, as-is stuff, bric-a-brac, collectibles. Everything that we carry in our thrift store was on sale.
And you do that because you have so much coming in, you just don't have enough room for it?
Right, yeah. We have 4 major sales a year. Like we have one coming up August 7th and 8th, Friday and Saturday. That'll have TV advertising and stuff, and we'll have a lot of people. But this was kind of like an unannounced special sale because we had a lot of inventory of stuff. And so people that give us their emails or phone numbers, we would their cell phone numbers, we would text them and or email them that we had a VIP sale. It was an unannounced sale, and we had a huge response, just a huge response.
Well, because if anyone's been there, they know that the products are quite good. I don't think you ever put anything out there, except way in the back where the old things are, if somebody parts and things like that. But most of the time, whether it's used or new, of course, new, it's going to be perfect. But used, really nice things there. So you go over a lot. Do you clean some of it up?
Actually, we don't. We ask for nice, usable, resaleable household items. And, if somebody cleans out their whole, let's say they're selling their house or condo or the parents died and the children are cleaning it out. Sometimes there's some stuff that we have to take that we can't necessarily sell. We have to crush it and send it to pay to dump it, actually. But that's not very often. Most of the stuff we get is pretty good. And especially in Palm Beach County and Lauderdale, I mean, we get some really nice things. So one man's trash is another man's treasure, I always
absolutely. Say. And of course, we have a lot of flea market sales everywhere. But when I go to Faith Farm, the reason that's so important is that this is not a private business. This is it's a big charity, and it's to support people who have been addicted to drugs and other kinds of things. But more importantly is when you go there, it's so well organized, and people are so friendly to you. The people that work there, are these paid people? Who are the people that help us?
Well, now our cashiers that handle the money are hourly paid cashiers. They're paid employees. The people that they're showing the furniture, writing up tickets, loading, unloading the as-is stuff in your trucks, all that stuff, all those people are students that are in the program that we're training to hopefully to have a job and a work ethic, but especially a job when they leave. So we have the CWT Comprehensive Work Training Period. So every section of what we do in the nonprofit, whether it's the food service or the lawn care, the maintenance, the recycling, the docks, the trucks, the guys that go out and pick up the stuff, all of those are special training programs that they'll have an hour a week where they specifically train them, besides doing the work 6 days a week. And then they'll sit for an exam at the end, and they'll get a certificate that they're qualified to do that. And if they're really good, they can ask to be teacher, and we'll monitor them, and they'll teach the next class. So then they can graduate with a teacher certificate. So a lot of these people we've had 3 ladies leave our call center and go and get jobs in call centers. We've had 3 guys leave our new furniture sales and go with Ashley up in Wellington and get jobs selling furniture. So it really, it's practical in that it makes it free for them because they're working in the jobs they work at. We sell the stuff, and that supports them. They're $3,000 a month per man per woman to be there. That's an expensive expense, but it's free to them. And yet that work project has a dual purpose of equipping them with not only the work ethic, but something practical that they can do on the outside when they graduate.
So when someone buys a very large piece of something, how do they get it home?
We have delivery. They can set up a delivery. We have a $99 delivery and we can deliver to whoever. We'll set it up to make the delivery new furniture or the as-is used that they buy.
Okay, well, that's very interesting for people who, and you find people all the time say, well, I never knew what Faith Farm really does. And we hear that all the time, even from people who are quite astute. In fact, this man that I just spoke with is very knowledgeable about a lot of things. He had no idea about Faith Farm. He's lived in Palm Beach County almost all his life.
I know it.
I can't almost even believe it, but when I got finished with him, he knew all about it.
I believe that.
Yeah, he knew all about it, and he could help you. He's quite a guy. And so, okay. Also, you were telling me that you did something very interesting this past weekend, and I thought it's very interesting. I think people would enjoy hearing about this.
Well, it has nothing related to Faith Farm except that as CEO, I'm a member of a CEOs group in Florida called Vistage, and they're all CEOs of their company, and so we go to monthly meetings and kind of bounce ideas and treat each other like board members to give ideas. Our motto is no one of us is as smart as all of us.
Oh,
and so we
good.
all get together with ideas, and everybody furnishes ideas. You can take or drop what you want. But we have once a year we have a couples retreat, and they go someplace not too far away. We went to Ponte Vedra up just south of Jacksonville, and we always have a guest speaker. And the guest speaker was from Hana, Hawaii. He has a 70-acre ranch in Hawaii that he and his wife live on, and he travels and speaks 1 week out of the month, and then spends three weeks out of the month on his ranch. And this guy has read over 17,000 books. His name's Stephen Snyder. He's read over 17,000 books. He had read 2,000 books by the time he was ready to start school, and the teacher did not know what to do with him. So she just sat him in the corner, and she said, well, here, you just sit there and read books. There was nothing she could teach him. He knew as more than she did about life. Anyway, he talked about control of the mind and proper use of the mind, and how we use so very, very little of our mental capacity. And that's such a dichotomy for me to realize that, our people that come in our program with drug and alcohol problems, some of them have really impaired their brain a little bit, and it's sad to me to see somebody damage what's there when I have not had the drug and alcohol problem, and I realize, man, I realized from this guy I wasn't using anywhere near my capacity of my mind.
And so did he teach you how to do that?
He has a speed reading course called Alpha. He taught how he'd done a speed reading course, and he says, my speed went up, but my retention went down. So he said, I decided, so he has a program where you read in thirds of a page, and he can read a book really quickly, and he teaches that. But he has literally spoken in, I think, 87 different countries.
I would think he'd be one of the speakers that TED.com has had.
He's been on TED.
Of course,
yes,
he's had to be.
I'm sure if
you
he's done some stuff on TED. I'm sure if you Googled his name, TED, and then Google his name, you'd see some of his talks. He's really a neat guy. And
how old is he?
He is about 63.
Good age.
And he said the greatest thing that ever happened to him is he had a heart attack. It was a wake-up call. He realized that he needed to change his eating habits, his exercise, and everything. And he either had a stent or a bypass or something. And so anyway, he's taking care of himself. And he says, I'm just going to go on record. I'm going to be standing here doing this with this energy level at age 99.
I hope so.
And
that's true.
I hope so, too. But he was very believable that he could do that. But it was really amazing.
So you also then had a very cute little conversation with him. I think our audience would like to hear that.
Yeah. Right near the end of the talk, he talked about being kind and being philanthropic. He said it's important to start your children putting back money in savings very, very early, and so that they have something. He talked about some disciplines of that, and then he talked about being philanthropic and giving away. He said there's no greater pleasure that I know of that anybody I've met in the world is to be able to give to help other organizations and nonprofits and to help other people. And so he talked a lot about that. So anyway, he says, I'll just tell you, I'm Jewish. He says, but part of that's comes from my heritage and my folks and all this stuff. So anyway, I thought about my book, U-Turn, because he came up to me after the break and he says, hey, because we go around at first and introduce ourselves. I'm president of Faith Farm. I do this, or I'm president of this building company, whatever. And so at the break, he came up and says, I heard what you did. He says, on drug and alcohol recovery, he said, I just want to thank you for doing that. It's just a scourge on our society. And he said, I really appreciate you doing that. So while he's talking the next segment, I'm thinking, I'd love to give him my book, U-Turn to God, on all the graduation speeches at Faith Farm Ministries. And people turn their lives around. And I thought, no, he's not going to be. And I thought, well, my God, with his reading skills, he'll probably read it in 5 minutes. So Cindy and I were, I'd signed a book to him, and I was hunting him, and I didn't know where he was. But then I saw him dragging his luggage through the lobby of the hotel, obviously getting ready to leave. So I said, Stephen, I said, I would like to give you this book. I said, now, because we're faith-based, I said, obviously God and Jesus and all that is a real important part of our healing of our students. I said, so I don't want to offend you since you said you're Jewish, but I said, there's a lot of Jesus stuff in here if you're not going to be offended. And he dropped his luggage and put his hand on his head and said, Dean, do you realize Jesus was one of us? He said, I love him. He said, don't you know I quoted him in my speech? He said, of course, I quoted Buddha and a lot of other people, but I take the best quotes I can get from all the great minds. And he says, and I love him. Of course, I'll read the book. Anyway, he was such a neat guy. He waited till he was 47 to get married. He said, I had such high standards for a wife. He said, I couldn't find anybody. He said, and then one day I was meditating and I was thinking about myself, and he thought, you know what? I bet I need to work on myself to get better so I can get up to where I can attract the woman I'm trying to do. He said, so that's what I did. I started working on myself, and I got up and I finally found a woman. She and her brother owned an airlines part manufacturing company. And he said we were dating and everything. Anyway, she sold it. She got $68 million was her share. So we bought 70 acres in Maui in Hawaii. And that's where we live. He says, George Harrison of the Beatles, he's got a big farm around us. And he said it's very secluded, and he invited us all there. He said, now, I'm serious when I invite you there. He said, but I'm just going to tell you, it's not a week or anything. I'm talking 2 days. I invite you for 2 days. He said, after that, he said, you got to leave. He said, but you're so welcome for 2 days. He said, hardly. He's only had 2 people in all the speeches I've given around the world have ever flown to Maui and taken me up on this. He said, but it's open. I just want you to know that. But anyway, he was a really neat guy. It was just an amazing mind. And he was so articulate. He never changed a sentence or changed a word or hum or hawed or anything. He just boom, 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 just like a machine gun. It was like walking up and drinking water from a fire hose. I mean, he was just like, he spoke fast enough that you didn't have time for your mind to wander. In other words, he was giving so much good information so fast that you had to just be totally energized and alert, hanging on to get all of it because it was so good. And so anyway, that was really a pleasurable weekend to come across him. He had won the award for being the #1 speaker in Vistage all over the world, in Vistage groups.
Oh, because Vistage groups they're all
over the world. Yeah, Vistage is a group of CEOs. And like I'm in a group that has 18. We have a group for up to 20, but we have 18 members right now.
And it's Palm Beach County.
Yes. And they're all
there's
over.
one in Broward and one in Miami. Is that over, right? Yes. Vistage. I'll have to look that up.
And our guy used to be a CEO of a big paper company, and he does this. He's retired. He does this because he just loves to keep his finger in business, and he facilitates our group our meeting every month. But it's really a fun group.
I'm glad that you get to do that, because I would dare say that your responsibilities and all the things that you have to deal with doesn't give you much chance to be creative, even though you've done a lot of it. But sometimes the problems and the challenges are overwhelming for you.
Yeah. One of the things I learned was that, we have a guy that builds $250 million yachts from $250 million and up, $250 million up.
What do you mean you have a guy that's
one
there,
of the members
in
our group?
students?
Yeah, one of the people in our group.
Oh, I'm sorry, Visage, right.
Has another guy who builds 20 million plus homes in Palm Beach County. Has another guy that owns an electrical contracting company. So, but one thing I've learned about all the guys in our group.
Only men? That was my other question.
No, we have a gal named Jamie Smith. She's an international consultant. She speaks all over the world. She has her own company. She is sharp as a tack. Matter of fact, when I was doing U-Turn, I went to Jamie because she has 2 books that I've read. And I went to her and I said, Jamie, who does your proofreading, your editing? She gave me 2 names, and I decided on the guy up in New Hampshire. So I sent him my manuscript for him to proof, and he quoted it. It was like $1,300 and something. I said, okay, go. So when he sent the U-Turn book back, he emailed me a bill, and it was $650. And I said, so I called him and I said, Mike, I said, this bill is half of what you quoted me, and I didn't put up a deposit. I mean, you act like this is the whole bill, and he says it is. And I said, why did you cut the bill in half? He says, Dean, I proofread all the time. I've never read or proofed a book that was so meaningful to me as your U-Turn book. He says, and so I'm willing to charge half just for the pleasure of proofing that book.
I can't believe this. Now, you never told me that story.
I know. My life is so full. I don't think to tell you everything.
Gee, that is so special.
Oh, that meant so much to me. I tell you, I teared up. I just thought, wow, that's really incredible. Here's a guy who proofreads books for a living.
But he knows that extra $650 is going to go to help some other person less fortunate who is an addict or struggling. And so that's the way that he lives.
Yeah. And it was good for me because I've never taken a dime. I will not ever take a dime for that book. I actually made a donation to make sure it covered all the cost of printing the first 1,000 copies, the proofreading, all the expense of the book. I covered out of my pocket personally because I didn't want it to be a burden on Faith Farm. I wanted it to be a blessing. You're one of the few people I've ever invited to a graduation that have actually come. Because people either have their own church on Sunday morning or whatever. But so I got the idea several years ago that I thought, I saw how touched you were coming to a graduation and how it elevated your opinion of Faith Farm. And I thought, well, somehow I got to get that to people who can't come. And so I decided if you couldn't come to graduation, I'd take graduation to you. And so that was my motivation for writing the U-Turn book. To take graduation to people. And it's great because I get to people get to learn about us and don't have to come sit through a graduation.
And the one thing that I saw, which just so excited me, were the family members, who are at the graduation, and also about the camaraderie of all the other students with one, and they have all these smart aleck comments and fun things.
They shout out at each other.
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely beautiful. So that's even something you couldn't put in the book.
No, it's that atmosphere is much like the only thing I can liken it to when I was in Vietnam, and it's what I call foxhole buddies, guys that have been through all sorts of life and death situations together, and they locked arms and they're struggling to get through whatever they're struggling to get through. It feels like that. It feels like they're foxhole buddies. They're all trying to get their healing and get turned around in their life, and they all have the same issues, some more than others, and they're all different, but everybody walks a different path, but everybody's got the issues that are there, And so it's very much a camaraderie, kind of like the Army or the Marine Corps or Navy or something, guys that have been through really hardships together.
You know what I'd like to do then? I think it's a good time for me to help people to get that book. So you heard that you don't have to be Christian. You can be Jewish. You can be whatever you are. Just be a human being. That's all you have to be.
Just realize that
enjoy this.
What we believe in works for us.
Yeah, right. And it will work for everybody, because hearing the sadness of a person what they've had to go through, and now what their life has been changed around. And so I want to figure out which is the best way. Is it for them to go directly to to you?
They can go to they can get the book on our website, and it'll send a link to CreateSpace that published it, and they just go to faithfarm.org.
Okay.
Like faith in God, farm, FARM, faithfarm.org, and the book will be on the front page.
Yeah, that's great. I have
and there's a link there, by the way, that if they'll put in the code, they'll get a $5 discount. So they want to do that.
Excellent. I want to ask you about the Okeechobee property you have. Do you raise chickens there?
No, that's an interesting question. No, we don't raise chickens.
The reason I'm going to say that.
Should I raise chickens?
You should, because farm fresh eggs are so, I guess people want them. They're in great demand. They're great need. I'm searching. I just found a place, as a matter of fact, on Hagen Ranch Road, a little bit west, a little bit south of Boynton Beach Boulevard. It's a big place. They're probably keeping it agricultural so that they can, make money on the land because they're surrounded by private communities. And they have eggs. They have chickens. They have orchids and a lot of things. But I'm going to go there because if you
on Hagen Ranch or south of Hypoluxo, or
no, it's on Hagen Ranch Road, and it's a little bit south of it's a little bit south of Woolbright.
Okay.
And I'm going to go there. I've been told about it, and I'm going to buy them because I've had fresh eggs. Their yolks are yellow. They're delicious.
Yeah.
And I'm going to buy them. And I was thinking there would be a great market for you there because you could sell them at Faith Farm, and I think that people would devour them because they'd be like natural.
Yeah,
they wouldn't have
absolutely.
anything else in it. You must have the land for it.
Oh, yeah, we got the land for it.
I would. You need a couple of good roosters.
Yeah. We've looked at everything from
greenhouse,
in our ponds, greenhouse, tilapia, chickens. We even looked at turtles, but that didn't work. Right now, I'm plowing up acreage to plant bahia grass so I can have some more grass for our cattle. Because beef prices, when I came here 8 years ago, we would sell our cows at 82 cents on the hoof per pound, and now they're $2.42. So it's tripled. They've tripled in price, the beef. Now you wonder why when you go to the grocery store, government keeps telling you that we have deflation, we don't have inflation. Well, you got to be stupid to swallow that. I mean, you can't buy it. I mean, I'm telling you, in 8 years, beef prices have tripled. What we get on, and then what I pay in the store for the beef. So everything's tripled.
Are your cattle, would that be called what they say, beef? Let's see, raised
grass-fed.
Grass-fed.
Yeah, no hormones, grass-fed.
Right,
yeah,
that's what it is because you don't do anything. You just let them
hang
around.
Just let them graze. Yeah.
Huh.
Moving from pasture to pasture if you got richer grass.
But then you're sending them off somewhere, and so then they're doing something with it. They're selling it as grass-fed.
I don't know how they sell it. When we auction, we send them to auction, and we don't have any control after that. We thought about slaughtering our own beef, but it is the FDA, USDA. It's
not a pretty picture.
Oh gosh,
it
is the restrictions on and inspections on doing your own beef.
Yeah.
So if we have a really prime thing, there's another ministry that does what we do called Dunklin up in Okeechobee, Dunklin Memorial Camp, and it's about a third our size. But they have wonderful results for their graduates. But they've maintained their USDA approved slaughter. So we'll give them a cow, they'll cut it, they'll keep half for doing it, and give us half back. So sometimes we've done that, but we don't do it very often because we actually make more money just selling at auction when we're ready to sell, and then buying from a wholesaler like Cisco or U.S. Foods and buying our beef at wholesale discount. We end up better than if we try and just always use our own beef.
Okay, but if you do get chickens, you can't put them in a caged place. No. You can't. So if that's what you
free
have to
range,
do,
that's
free
the thing.
range chicken.
Right.
So you're going to have to think about that for the eggs. I want the eggs, but anyway, if I'm going to get the eggs, and if everything works out, I'll taste them. They're good.
Let me know.
I'll get you some.
Let me know.
Yeah, because they're so much better. Let's go back to Faith Farm now. We haven't talked about the bridge for a long time. Whatever happened with the bridge story?
Well, the bridge is completed, signed off, and debt-free. We've had a policy for 64 years of being debt-free. We go by the scripture, owe no man anything except to love him. So that's the way we operate. And so when we got that 1.1 million, when the bridge was condemned, and we got the bid, low bid, we really didn't have the funds for that. So we had to put a real hardship on us. We had to quit ordering anything over invoice over $500. I had to personally approve, and that was really difficult because there are some things that you really need, but I had to make sure they were that we needed them right then. We had to clamp down to get cash flow. We had to. I put a hiring freeze. We didn't hire for new positions. If somebody left, we did not have any raise increases for 18 months. Nobody got a raise, and we tried to preserve all the cash we could. Now we had, I will tell you a story about one of your listeners.
Really?
A man had never ever come into our store. We had no record of this man in Boca, but he's in this radio audience. And so one day we got a draw on the progressive draw on that $1 million bridge, $93,000, and we did not have the money for it. So, of course, we do what we always do. We pray and say, okay, God, this is not our ministry. This is yours. You got to fund it. We didn't choose. This isn't an elective thing, this bridge. It was condemned, and we have to do it by right. So anyway, we prayed for the $93,000. Monday morning, I come in, Judy's waving, Dean, you gotta see this letter. You got to see this letter. Well, it was from an attorney, and she says, I have a constituent lives in Boca, and on April 30th, he did a fifth codicil. A codicil is an amendment or a change to a will. He did a fifth codicil to his will, and then 90 days later, on July 30th, he died. And so I've been adjudicating his will, but in that fifth codicil change he made, he added Faith Farm in there for $100,000. So that's how we make that. So if you had multi-hour program for me to tell you the miracles that occurred for that bridge you just brought up, everything. The people at Ruby Tuesday's restaurant up at Wellington said, we can't do without Faith Farm in our community, so we are going to take 20% of our revenues from food for Tuesday and Thursday night, and we're going to give that to your bridge campaign.
So
and I'm going,
you had a lot
just
of
amazing.
things like
I had
this.
things all over where people helped, and that's how the bridge got done.
When Dean comes on the show, we're not quite scripted, so we don't know what we're going to talk about, but eventually we have so much to talk about, we run out of time.
You're right.
Thank you so much, Dean,
Thank you
as
for
usual.
having me on. I
Everybody
appreciate
go
it.
there, buy things, donate things, faithfarm.org. That's the place. Don't buy it anywhere else, and we appreciate you so much,
Thank
Dean.
you for having me on.